Hi, everyone. Thank you all who joined me today, July 31st, 2026. In our previous live, I am so sorry that we were experiencing technical difficulties with internet and with audio and video. And thank you all for your patience and for spending some time with me. To make it up, I am uploading a cleaner version of my presentation, hopefully a little bit more abridged. And I hope this information is helpful for all of you. So without further ado, my name is Martha. I am the founder of BridgeMH. And today we're going to talk about the new Massachusetts LMHC and LMFT regulations for licensure. So a couple of disclaimers is that I am not making this up. I am basing this presentation on public records requests that I obtained from Department of Public Health or DPH. And based on the final draft that was submitted to the Secretary of the Commonwealth. This information is just for educational purposes only, to spread the word and help hopefully clarify some of the questions. I am not a lawyer in any way, so this is not legal advice. Make sure to always verify directly with mass.gov. And just so you know, I am not representing either DPH or the board or any of the professional organizations with this presentation. So for today's agenda, we will be covering the LMHC, some of the updates to education requirements, postmaster's hours and supervision, the new LSMHC, some changes to the LMFT, and the frequently asked questions. And I'll also sprinkle some of the questions that I got in the chat today earlier with the live. So for LMHC, the education piece changed, and there's some major gains from my humble perspective. The fact that we have multiple degree pathways. So under current regulations, so far there was a before 2017, after 2017. If you were before 2017, you had to have one master's degree, 48 credits, and were able to supplement with another master's or additional graduate coursework or a doctorate's degree. After 2017, you had to, like, if you started your program after 2017, you had to have it all on one 60-degree program, or else it was not deemed appropriate as per the regulations. Now with the new ones, what will happen is that regardless of when you started your program, you're able to present graduate level credits as long as you have a relevant a degree in a relevant field. So you're able to have, again, the two masters or master's and graduate degree, graduate advanced degree, or additional coursework, or a doctoral program, or any combination. So you're basically able to make up for credits if you need to, which is huge for international applicants. So yeah, we're able to supplement, more flexibility. Yay! Now, another big success for both LMHC regulations and LMFT regulations is the qualified approved supervisor. So I'm going to say this during the LMHC part, but also it applies, just so you know, it applies for LMFTs as well. So before, LMHCs and LMFTs were able to supervise other pre-licensed or students of marriage and family therapy or mental health counselors, as long as they were independently licensed for 3 years. Now that is one pathway that you can be a supervisor, but you can also be a supervisor if you hold a clinical supervisor credential like the MAMCA MACCS, which is, by the way, it's misspelled here, but it's MA lowercase CCS. NBCC supervisor credential, or any board approved equivalent. AAMFT also has the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy also has a supervisor credential. And also there's a training path. So if you don't have any of the above, and you are independently licensed, you can also supervise other professionals as long as you have completed coursework specific in 12 hours of coursework specific in supervision, like supervision theory, considerations, and all of that, which also expands the scope, not the scope, the amount of people who can be eligible to supervise, and still do so ethically, which I think it's good, especially for people looking to become supervisors, to help others, or if you're already a supervisor and are looking into seeing what your other supervisees can do and how can they grow. And also for students when they are looking into, hey, is my experience gonna count, or am I just wasting my time? So it's good considerations to have. There's still other professionals that can supervise, both LMHCs and LMFTs. So licensed independent clinical social workers, licensed psychologists, psychiatrists, out-of-state equivalents that the board deems, like if your supervisor is from like a different country or a different jurisdiction, if they if depending on the credentials, the board still has discretion to deem them as approved or not. So the new one that we've all been waiting for, and I'm just gonna do a drum roll for this one because it deserves it. You know what? The LSMHC, or the Licensed Supervised Mental Health Counselor. That is a that has been an associate level license that has been in the works for a while now in Massachusetts. With these regulations, that license comes into effect. So once they're promulgated, people will be able to apply for this associate level credential. That means that you can't, like if you have those nice fancy 5 letters after your name, you basically, what it means is that you completed all of the education requirements for mental health counselors, and that you are and that you pass your exam. Those are the requirements for the LSMHC. And yeah, you can start accruing hours with or without it. It doesn't mean that it's going to be required, from my understanding, but it will be an advantage once you already have those two, to have everything in the system. Somebody in the chat was asking me before, like, what's the benefit of having it, and how will it really help me have an LMHC down the road? And I think once that they have everything in the system, it's way easier for you to just provide an updated query and the postmaster's form with your hours. And it will be hopefully more streamlined, and they'll be able to issue a response faster because you're already in the professional licensure gateway. So hopefully staff will be able to give a better turnaround because you've already passed like a screening, as opposed to gathering like everything and being determined. So it will still be, people will still need to apply same way. And we're going to talk about the fees and a couple of stuff later. But basically you need all the required coursework from LMHC, passing the NCMHCE. So the other exam, the NCE, does not apply, just the NCMHCE, same as before, and submit an application, and that's it. Oh, and pay your fees. Always pay your fees. LMFTs now. So we were talking about some changes to education for LMHCs. LMFTs also expanded a little bit more of their vocabulary. They're recognized in COMFT. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. So I'm really sorry, accrediting body for marriage and family therapist programs. That's COAMFTE. So if a program is COMFT accredited, it automatically meets the educational requirements for Massachusetts regulation, let's say. They updated some of the reciprocity rules for LMFTs. And yeah, and I think one of the biggest things is that they removed the language in the regulation that specified that that people need to ask for permission first for the board. So if you've registered before, you know that basically submitted an application, ask for permission to sit for the exam, and after you scheduled and took your exam and passed it, then you can like move forward and they review your application under the current regs. Under the new ones, however, that language was removed. So what I am expecting is that people will no longer need to ask for permission from the board to schedule for the exam, and they'll be able to register directly with AAMFT, so the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy. And that would be a huge gain. I think what they were noticing, and I was mentioning this in the live before, is that applications were basically open for long periods of time for LMFTs, because again, people needed to gather all their stuff, submit an initial application, and leave it pending for whatever time it took them to schedule their exam, pay for their fees, take it, submit the scores, and then continue on with their application. So that is huge. But the core of the educational portion remains the same, which is that you still need to do very marriage and family therapy specific coursework. The postmaster's experience remained the same for marriage and family therapists. You still need to complete direct client experience, specifically with families. The exam's still the same. One thing that is, and let me see if I have it in this one or not. No. Okay, so I put it in this slide, but just so you know, for both LMFTs and LMHCs, and that's one of the drawbacks for international professionals, in my opinion, is that now, moving forward with the new regulations, none of the postmaster's experience, and this is really important, so I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. None of the postmaster's experience will count unless all of the educational requirements are met. I repeat, until you have all of the credits that you need for a license for either LMHC or LMFT, you're not able to count any postmaster's hours. If you remember correctly, we have education, exam, and then the postmaster's hours. So that was not a thing with LMFTs. It was not previously specified. Now it is. It was not worded like that for LMHCs. Now it is. So no matter if you're foreign trained or not, until you've accrued all of the credits, none of your hours work. That means if I had a previous, like a master's from a different country, and I started working and I moved here, and I started working and then realized I had some courses to take, until I finished those courses, all of the education that I already had and the education that I continue accruing here in the States under approved supervision is not counting, which is, I think, horrible for foreign trained credentials who are not necessarily entry level. I think it is a safety measure for the public good for entry level clinicians, but that is not the case for internationals. And BridgeMH will continue to advocate for that. Okay, so with that said, however, that means another advantage of getting the LSMHC, if that's what some people here are interested in, is that you already know your education part is completed, because if you already got that, you don't need to worry about the credits. So yeah, at least you know that you're free to start accruing postmaster's hours under the new regulations. I still think there should be a different pathway for internationals, but Now, about implementation. So we are right now that the draft is approved. What ended up taking the most thing is that the board needed to review the regulations. It was like a little bit like there was an administrative process. A lot of things in the background. There was a public comment last year around this time, I think August last year or September last year. The regulations were finally approved in February, in a board meeting in February this year, but they're not promulgated until they get to the Secretary of the Commonwealth desk. So they already deposited them. So they're expecting, according to the last meeting now from July 2026, that once they're processed, because that was the last step of we're gonna be here at promulgation, and therefore implementation. So day that is promulgated, day that it will be into effect and implemented, and we hope to see those things, for example, in the licensing website and so on. So a couple of frequently asked questions: what happens if to pending applications? So if one of the things that were discussed in previous meetings of the board to, and again, this is all public information, you can always double check when mass.gov, is that if you submitted an application and it's still pending review, you haven't heard from the board, you're waiting for a hearing or whatever, as long as it was submitted before the day that the new regulations are promulgated, it will be reviewed until the old regs or the 2015 regs. Once they're promulgated, like say that they're promulgated tomorrow, anything from August 2nd and on would be under the new 2026 regs. Again, you can always keep in touch with mass.gov and be on the lookout to see if they're already out. What I last heard was that they were expecting the following weeks, 2 or more, but not months. So anytime, I'm guessing in August, we'll be having those into effect. So if you want to send in an application, I would do it ASAP if you're interested in being evaluated under the current regs. The application fee is still the same, and they will still apply to LSMHC. So you submit an initial application, it's $117. After it is approved, in order for them to issue your license, any of those 3 that I talked about today, it's $155. And to renew it every 2 years, it's $155 again, plus the continuing credits that you need to accrue. And last but not least, I did not talk about that too much, but they expanded the scope of the ethics code under 262 CMR 8.0. If I'm not mistaken, that so LSMHC is subject to the same ethics codes as LMHCs and LMFTs and all of the professions ruled by the board. So yeah, please be on the lookout for announcements from your professional organizations. Get involved. They're able to advocate for you as issues arise. Be on the lookout for announcements on mass.gov. And follow BridgeMH for more info. You can also send us an email to contact@bridgemh.org if you need the slides or require more individualized attention. And thank you. That was it for today. And thank you again all for your patience and for supporting mental health professionals in the Commonwealth. Bye.